We get in the chopper, we fly, we land, and it was the most beautiful thing because we land and it is just so intense. Like the atmosphere is just, it's dire because it literally is. Everyone's expecting to come across the
Welcome back to the You Never Know podcast, where you never know who we're going to have on or what we're here to talk about. It's been a little while again, but we're back on track. Today's guest, she is very familiar with the whole broadcasting, radio, news kind of life. She is Mellisa Paul, and she wears a lot of hats, so I'm going to let her introduce herself with all her fancy titles and whatnot.
Daniel, I want to be really transparent. I'm introducing myself because there was such a litany for you to have to know that it was just easier for me to just say it, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay, so lifestyle manager at KTVB, and I'm the host of Idaho Today, which people are probably most familiar with. You can watch it on Channel 7, Monday through Friday, 12:30 to 1. There's the plug. Also follow us on social. Facebook, it's Idaho Today. Instagram, it is Idaho Today, the number 7. You can also tune in to My 102.7 Monday through Friday, 3 to 7 now. That's the show I do on radio. And then previously, I'm a former news anchor and meteorologist and radio DJ before that, but resurrected once again in this market on My 102.7. So
Told you she wears a lot of hats.
A lot of hats there.
And I like to bake cookies and
There
take
you
care of
go.
my children.
There you
That's the best hat.
Nice. So I guess before we kind of get into, everything you're doing now and kind of stuff you've done recently, let's kind of go back to kind of, maybe not early life, but that's kind of, I just kind of want to hear about your background and how you became a news anchor and worked your way up in kind of like the TV broadcasting world.
How long do we have?
As long as it takes.
So my path is not traditional. I think majority of journalists will go, from high school into college, and they'll study journalism and learn editorial and just, all the ethics behind journalism. I actually graduated high school and had a passion to pursue medicine. I wanted to be a doctor, and ended up blowing out. I was on I had some athletic scholarships that I ended up losing because I injured my knee, completely destroyed my knee. So I ended up going to college on scholastic scholarships at what was College of Idaho. Now, actually it was Albertson College of Idaho. Now it's College of Idaho. And from there, I was my second year and needed more funding. And somebody suggested to me to compete in some pageants. And so I was not a shy person. And I'm like, okay. And so I started doing that, making a little bit of scholarship money on the side, and ended up competing in the Miss Idaho program and won my first year, and then went to Miss America. And I went there to fund my college education. Not a lot of people know, but the Miss America organization is one of the largest, if not the largest at the time that I competed, provider of scholarships for women in the entire world. And at that time, too, they were offering a scholarship for Albertson College of Idaho. So I decided to compete, and I won. I went to Miss America, and then a part of Miss America, you have a tour of your platform. And so then you do all these radio appearances and TV appearances. And I did an appearance at Journal Broadcast Group on one of their radio stations with Larry Doss. Hey, buddy, if you're listening. I doubt it, but if you are, hi. And we just had a really good time. And he was like, wow, you got such a great radio voice. He said, have you ever thought of broadcasting? And I didn't think anything of it. They ended up approaching me, and then it was Bill and Doug in the morning. Does anyone in this room remember 100.3 The X back in the day?
Unfortunately, I'm not from Idaho, so I can't say I do.
Okay, such a staple radio station. Are you familiar? Does that ring a bell?
It was 103. What? What's the station?
100.3 The X.
Okay,
the signal still exists. It's still a very, very, very popular, successful radio station. But back in the day, it started out as pirate radio and then came over here under Journal Broadcast Group. But anyway, Bill and Doug in the Morning was a really classic morning show. And Bill Carrico reached out and was like, after appearing on his show, he's like, hey, we'd love for you to do some, like little bits on our show. So I started doing some bits with them, and then their program manager, Jason Jackson, and then Dan McCauley. Hey, Dan, who's still over at Journal, which is now Lotus. They were like, hey, we'd like to have you do a weekend radio show. And I'm like, okay, that sounds great. And I'm in college. And so then I started doing that, which was fantastic. And then I started joining them in the morning still again. as a little bit like a little side guest host, and that was fantastic. And then from there, I graduated college and ended up ditching broadcast for a while, went to Los Angeles to pursue my career as an actor. I actually graduated with a degree in theater from Boise State.
Oh,
And yeah, I went to Boise State and then Oxford School of Drama in England for a specialization in Shakespearean acting, and then came back from Oxford to Boise State, graduated Boise State, and then said, peace out, Boise, and went to Los Angeles, which is a whole other story of the experience
that's
there.
Gonna be,
Yeah, that's a fun tale, but that'll be a whole other podcast. But did that, and then while I was there, was contacted by a couple other media outlets. Almost went and did radio in San Francisco, and then also back east in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, which I did fly out to check out and was like, no, thank you. But I was almost going to San Francisco, and then Journal reached back out and wanted to have me come back and do the morning radio show, with the understanding too that they were going to likely acquire a television station. And so I came back, did morning radio here with Bill and Big J, who's still on 100.3 The X. He's like a brother to me. Love that guy. And then we did morning show for a while, and then there was some transitions with Man Cow coming in and our morning show stopping, and then me heading over to KIVI as a weekend forecaster. And then I trained under Scott Dorval for weather, and then about 2 years in was promoted to the morning news anchor desk and did that for about 5 years. All in the meantime, also studying mass communications at Boise State. I did cover my ethical journalism training and all that. Challenged mass communications, which was fun. And then was there for, I believe, about 5 years. Got married, had a baby, and was offered an opportunity to go to King in Seattle and a couple other places, but chose Sacramento because that's where my husband's family, he has a lot of family there, and we wanted to be able to be around family to raise our kiddos. And I went to Sacramento as a morning meteorologist and midday meteorologist and fill-in anchor. And then 2 years in was offered a management position as community director and to take over the lifestyle show, in which I did for almost a decade, and then grew their lifestyle program there.
Wow.
There you go. And then now here I am in Boise. Because, 10 years there, and then I was offered a chance to come here home and do a similar thing.
Okay.
Because the company that owns Channel 7 also owned KXTV in Sacramento.
Okay. So it was a nice transition to come back home.
Yes.
So you were from here, right?
pretty full
Yeah,
circle.
born and raised. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
My first question off that is by radio. I mean, I kind of know what you mean. I think I know what you mean, but what do you mean by doing radio? Like,
I have a
DJ?
radio show. Yeah,
okay.
radio
But like,
personality.
are you DJing like a club DJ, like spinning vinyl, or are you
I do not
just talking,
spin vinyl.
or like
No. Yeah, no. So it's radio DJ. It's a radio personality. You know,
Okay.
you just you got your tracks, and in between you do your breaks, and you.
I would
you
say,
know,
so what
you
does
do a
that
show.
consist of? Do you is that an interview based show? Is that kind of scripted?
When I did- yeah.
What is?
No, it's not scripted. So when I did morning radio, that is interview-based, conversational. You got your comedians coming in, you're doing stunts, all that kind of fun stuff. You know, the games and everything.
Yeah.
But then when you just have a standard show throughout the day, you're doing breaks and hits and just kind of carrying the listenership throughout the program.
Sure.
You know, and so you're doing information, news, weather, you're talking about pop culture, you're just relating to the viewership or listenership. It's fun.
Okay.
Because I'm a music junkie.
Sure.
Love music.
So what music did you play at your station that you were a part of?
Well, so originally 100.3 The X was an active rock station.
Okay.
At the time, more alt rock, but alt rock then is what I believe active rock probably is now.
Sure.
It's like Nirvana, Pearl Jam,
Okay.
Yep.
Alice in Chains, all that. So that's what I played then, and then now I'm on a pop station
Okay.
because I'm a mom.
Sure.
Gotta
So
keep
it's
it
like
PG.
today's hits and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like Beyonce's latest stuff.
Yeah.
From my goodness, Taylor Swift, Katy Perry, which I actually dig Katy Perry. It took me a long time to admit that, y'all, because I really am a rocker. But there are some really talented pop stars out there, and she's pretty dope.
What's your take on Harry Styles?
Okay, so Harry Styles, when he was in a group, could care less, but now he broke out and he's an individual. I happen to think he's actually really incredibly talented. And I love the fact that he's done such a great job at being a positive example in the community, and not just the community, but globally. He always puts forth like a really good image. I don't know how true or how authentic that image is, but he does a really good job making it seem like it's authentic. So props to him and his PR peeps. But I think he's really talented, and I appreciate his message.
Sweet.
Nice. I was curious because you said you went into college and stuff for medicine, and then, someone asked you, you have a great radio voice, if you ever considered it. When, was it just kind of like overnight, all of a sudden, like you forget about medicine and you're all about broadcasting? Or was there a moment where you're like, okay, this is what I want to do moving forward?
Well, it was a bit of a process. So to clarify, I wanted to I wanted to become a doctor and be a physician. So when I first started at College of Idaho, you're just getting your base stuff in, and I was going to go into biology. But what ended up happening was one of my best friends was auditioning for a play at the College of Idaho, and so I read opposite of her. I ended up getting cast over herself. And then the theater director there said, you should be a theater major. And looking at all of the mathematics and the seriousness of biology, and then being a first-year college student who just wants to play and let your hair down, that sounded brilliant. And so I'm like, I will be a theater major. This is excellent, because I have a semi-photographic memory, so it's not a massive lift to memorize a script. And it was fun. I loved it. I mean, I do love performance, and I believe in performance, and it's a huge part of my heart. And I'm really, really, really invested in the arts. I think it's incredibly valuable. But because I was a bit of a slacker at the moment, I was like, yes, this is the perfect path. So I started that and then stuck with it, and I love it. And so I did that. And then it was after the Miss Idaho tour that somebody was like, hey, you should do broadcast. And so it was actually kind of breadcrumbed. When I started in radio, I was like, this is fun. I love it. But I didn't see it as my ultimate, as broadcasting being my ultimate. But when I went to Hollywood, and this is going to sound really pretentious, so I apologize in advance. But while I was there working, I was having a conversation with Jason Alexander. He's from Seinfeld. He's Newman. And we were talking, and it's just that point in your career where you're like, am I doing the right thing? I don't know. It doesn't feel right. And he basically said, if you can imagine yourself doing something else, do something else. And I took that to heart. And then I went home and, thought for a very long time and thought about it. And then when broadcast started knocking at the door again, saying, we want you, where are you, come back, I was like, you know what, that was a lot of fun. And then I realized it with a lifestyle, because the lifestyle I was living, pursuing what I was doing in Los Angeles, because I was doing some theater, I was doing film, I was doing radio there, actually, a little bit. That's a whole story. And then it's a really interesting racket, and there's a lot of ups and downs, a lot of roller coasters. I wanted to get married and have a baby. I just didn't see that anywhere near the near future in the timeline in which I wanted.
Right.
And then so when broadcast came and they're like, hey, I was like, you know what, I can see a future there. Because there's a lot of similarities in the fact of performance, relating to people, conveying a message, telling a story, being it's that connectivity matter, which is beautiful, and that's what I thrive on, and that's what I love.
How do you think you do that where you can connect with your audience?
Well, there's a lot of different ways. I think, most importantly, it's just being a human being. I think it's really easy for viewers, for listeners, to look at people who work in the public eye and put them on a pedestal and imagine them to be different. But the fact is, there's absolutely nothing different about anybody in media versus somebody who works, behind the counter at a store. We're just all people doing a job, and just kind of breaking down that barrier, I think, is really, really important. I think it's a lot easier to do in radio, because radio is such a casual, relatable medium where you can have those conversations, and people don't have a visualization to start to project an idea of who they think you are onto you, right? Like, you listen to somebody and then you build a visual, which when you see them, you're like, what? That's what they look like, right? There's always that shock, but there's still that I think personal thread where you've found what you relate to with them. TV is a whole different medium in that aspect, because there's so much visual behind it. I think people see somebody on a television and then they automatically judge them and go, oh, well, he's good looking, he must be, or she acts like this, she must be, instead of just hearing what they're communicating and saying. So I personally, that's why I really like doing lifestyle. Lifestyle is very different than news. Lifestyle is very different than weather. Lifestyle is both informative, but it is a little more like radio in the fact that we can have those casual conversations and be authentic and real and really relate to viewers.
Yeah. Can you kind of explain what lifestyle, like what that means?
That's what I was gonna ask.
Absolutely, yes, because it is newer to this market, which is the whole reason why I came home. So I know we're all familiar with your standard newscast, which is incredibly important. I can't express how important your local news stations are, the hard work that they put in to make sure that you are properly, incredibly informed, by the way. Credibly, meaning that they are held to laws when they tell you information. I think a lot of people forget about that. And then lifestyle, though, is about, I call it the water cooler talk. So news obviously focuses on the immediate information, what happened in your day, how it impacts you, and what you need to know, right? Lifestyle is more about the water cooler conversations. So lifestyle is more about, and when I say water cooler, it's like if you're in a workspace and everyone's gathering around the water cooler and you're having, sip and you're like, hey, how was your weekend? Oh, it was great. I went up to Bogus Basin and I rode the Sky Coaster. It was rad. Oh, wow. I really want to take my kids to go to that. What's that like? Oh, it's great. Well, we went paddleboarding over at Lucky Peak. Oh, did you find a great cove? I sure did. So that's type of the conversations you'll see on lifestyle. So we highlight all the great things that make Idaho awesome on Idaho Today. That is our goal. So we highlight anything from hiking trails to, food recipes and ideas for moms to we're doing a back to school special in the next week as kids are heading back to school to help families have the best information they need to get their families ready to go back into the grind of the fall, right? So it's more about providing the viewer the proper tools so they can make the right decisions so then they can have the best life that they possibly can create for themselves. And it can be anything from medical advice from credited local providers like St. Alphonsus with our Life and Balance segments to, sitting down with Chef Christina Murray in the kitchen going, what do I do with all my leftovers, Christina? And she's like, well, here's a great recipe. So, it runs the gamut.
It's a very hybrid, topic. And
it is.
It's definitely it's almost like bringing the, the Today Show kind of locally, essentially.
That's exactly it. It's the Today Show, Ellen, and sometimes QVC, because we do have paid programming on there as well. If they had a baby, it would be Lifestyle Idaho Today.
That is some baby.
Yes, it is. It's a giant baby. But, celebrity interviews. So I know I mentioned that I did a show in Sacramento for almost 10 years. So, we had all that type of content in addition to, a larger partnership. So the station I worked for was an ABC affiliate. So we had a really big relationship with Disney. So literally almost once a month or so, at least for 2017, I was at the property or at a Disney property almost every other month doing a broadcast, cutting content. We were doing giveaways for Disney trips on the show. It's a brilliant format because it takes also possibly some things that viewers or listeners may not have the opportunity to experience otherwise, and then we give them a platform and an opportunity to do it, right? Disney is expensive, but to be able to give away a Disney trip to somebody is huge because that family otherwise may not be able to. We're not there yet with Idaho Today, but we are building towards it. But we do tons of giveaways, and we give away some really awesome stuff like tickets to events, concerts, shows, products, really awesome products like kayaks and stand-up paddleboards.
So, how long has Idaho Today been going on? When did you start? When was your first episode? When did it air?
So Idaho Today was a kind of a progression on KTVB. I think the actual inception really began as just inserts a series of years ago, and those were all sales-based. And then because that seed had been planted, there was the idea of, hey, what if there's this opportunity to build this into a full format like I was already executing in another state. And so coming here, we launched the test run of the actual half-hour show right during the pandemic. The reality was we were supposed to be launching March of 2020, which you all know is a really bad time.
Yeah, it's probably the worst possible
Not a whole lot
time
of show.
Right?
Not a whole lot to show.
Exactly. Well, and honestly, I'm gonna complain because it was gonna be a really awesome launch. What we had already set up with NBC was we were gonna go to Sun Valley and Jason Eggold. I can't think of it now. Why can't I think of it? It's the TV show on NBC that's about a hospital, and it stars Jason Eggold, and then Peter Horton is the producer. Oh my gosh, not Providence. What is it called? Darn it. Anyway, it's such a good show, and you should watch it on NBC. But Callie's laughing at me. Yeah, look it up on your iPhone. I got my associate producer with me. How lame am I?
She's always working.
Yeah. New Amsterdam. It's New Amsterdam. Thank you, darling. Okay, so New Amsterdam. So what they do, what a lot of people aren't aware of, is how they produce their show. Is they go around the country and they do talkbacks in all their top markets, and they sit down with the viewers and ask them what their main concerns are in medicine. Like, tell us your story and how it relates to like your local hospital, and then they'll take those real life stories, and then that's what they
craft a show
springboard
around it.
That's what they springboard their storyboards
That's
off.
genius,
right?
And I bet you no one knows that. That's definitely like a hidden like.
Thank you. Great story, right?
Yeah.
So they were coming to Sun Valley in association with a couple of organizations up in Sun Valley. So what we were going to do for the launch of the show is I was going to host a talkback with Jason Eggold and Peter Horton, and we were going to do this big story, and I was spending a weekend with them up in Sun Valley, and then we were going to use that to help launch the show and then push towards New Amsterdam on NBC, right? It's like this beautiful beginning, so excited, and literally 2 weeks before we were going to go join them and create the content, we get this word from some of their producers in New York, because they're based out of New York. Their PR and their producers are, and they're like, yeah, we're going to have to cancel. I'm like, what? Why? What happened? They're like, there is like a really big health issue right now here in New York, and we're told we can't travel.
Can't do it.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, no way. And then, we're like, oh, I wonder if that's the flu thing that we were hearing about, right? Because if you remember, it was a slight trickle down effect. Really hit New York. Some states kind of started closing, but the West, we kind of had our head in the sand for a little bit.
It was only Seattle. That was about it.
Yeah, exactly,
It was just
right?
a big outbreak in Seattle.
Totally. We're like, it's fine, it's good. We're going to be great. So we're like, oh, man, that sucks. But we still thought we'd be able to launch the show. And then probably a week after that, our general manager at the time came into my office and was like, you guys, you know what? We're going to have to, step out of the building for a little bit, but we'll probably be back in about a week. And then we'll pick everything else back up, and then we'll keep focusing on launch.
Psych.
Yeah. And a year and a half later, right? But so what we ended up doing then is we actually ended up launching remotely in the lobby of KTVB. And we created a little bubble studio in there because we had to protect news. Obviously, news never stops, so you've got to keep that resource constantly safe. And I was still reporting from the field, creating content, and then coming and hosting the show. So we had to create like this little bubble studio where nobody else accessed it except myself and my shooter and editor and my producer.
It's like probably like a one camera setup, like nothing crazy.
We actually had a couple cameras. It was brilliant.
Really?
The way our engineers put the whole thing together. Like seriously, huge shout out to Paul Budell and Hans. Oh, he's going to hit me when I see him. and Hans Eliason and just the whole team. They did really, really, really great work setting that place up. But so we launched. We did that. It was fantastic. We did a little test run, and then right around the holidays, took a break, kind of reassessed some stuff, worked on some internal shaping of execution, and then added more people to our team, and then we relaunched in September of last year. Thank you. See, associate to producer for a reason. Look at you, Callie. Yeah, September 7th.
So is it just you as the host then?
Yes.
And
yeah,
then
I'm a solo host.
Is it live and you toss the packages?
Well, it's a mix of things. I'm so glad you asked. Eyeball behind the
Sorry.
screen over there.
Yeah.
So for all of you who may not be aware, Ryland is actually sitting over here at it. See, I'm reporting. I'm sorry. He's sitting over here at an information center, right?
Yeah,
your
got
tech
3
center.
screens in front of me.
3 screens, and I'm seeing an eyeball like this.
Yeah, just through the crack.
He's camera shy.
He's just talking through a crack. Okay, again, another difference between like a news execution and lifestyle is that with lifestyle, we do have packages, yes, pre-produced packages. We shoot ahead of time. They're beautifully edited by the incredibly talented marketing team at KTVB and our shooter and editor. And I do toss the packages, but lifestyle is also really focused on interacting with people in real time and live conversation.
I was going to say, it's almost like correspondent work, right? Where you're going to like these like Bogus Basin, Sun Valley, and talking to these people and, kind of hyping up what's going on.
A bit, yes, but there's more of a interviewee kind of talk. Right. Think like Oprah. Oprah Ellen is exactly what it is. So we bring people in studio and we have real time.
You're not just You're not just reporting something going on.
Yeah. Yep. And so it's more that conversational storytelling. And then on top of that, we also do Zoom interviews. And then on top of that, we also do shout out content, which is like small little pushes to certain things, maybe just generated by ourselves, but sometimes clients. So there's a lot of different pieces that we have moving within that show, Whereas if you do news, you'll have a reporter in the field. You toss to the reporter handles that content, and then the anchor tosses into a package. And then you may have a live interview in a news piece, but it's not the majority of the show, right? Most of news is managed by pre-recorded content. Most. Not all of it, obviously, but most of it is.
Yeah. I was curious because you talked about, you do like some Zoom interviews and stuff like that. We've done a few for this podcast just because, we've had some guests who obviously don't live here or whatever. Do you like doing Zoom interviews?
So it's a love-hate. So honestly, I think one of the benefits coming out of the pandemic is a realization that we can access people across the globe and not have to pay for airfare. So with the celebrity content that we cover previously, I would have to fly out to junkets in Los Angeles, which is a process, and it takes a lot of time. Or you'd have to fly somebody in, which is a cost to a studio. Now studios realize that all they have to do is send a Zoom link and tell somebody block out 4 hours of your day, put a shirt on and do your hair and sit on your couch with a nice backdrop and you're good to go. So I think it's brilliant because it really does speed up the process and accessibility to some names that, especially like in a market in Boise where it might be a bit of a challenge to get some big names like Kenan Thompson. I interviewed Kenan Thompson.
That's what we're trying to get on the podcast.
From my dinner, from my my dining space.
He's getting his star on the Hollywood.
Oh, fantastic!
Walk of Fame.
He so deserves it. Yeah. He so deserves it.
He's been on SNL for a while, hasn't he?
Well, before that though, he was a child star. He was on.
I don't go back that far.
Yeah, he was on all that, and then he was also on in Good Burger and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, you if you're going to interview me, you better do your research. Go to Netflix. Go to Netflix.
We will for sure.
But yeah, and he's the longest running member of
SNL.
SNL.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah, dude's brilliant.
Can you name drop some of the other kind of celebrities you've worked with?
Oh dear Lord.
Or like give us like a top 5 maybe.
Yeah, some household names.
Oh boy. Okay, so let's do categories. Music, TV, movies.
Let's
sports.
Yeah, like
sports.
Yeah.
Okay, now that's a good one. That's really going to make me think hard. Kristen Armstrong. Hey, girl. No, she's awesome. I love Kristen Armstrong. Okay. Ice skater. He was on South Park. Brian Boitano. Do you guys know who Brian Boitano is? Are you familiar with South Park?
Yeah.
Anybody? I'm hearing his crickets in here. So
I've seen it.
Okay, so South Park. There's a certain season of South Park where they just go off on Brian Boitano, who is an Olympic figure skater, and that's another person you guys need to look up. So South Park did a big thing with him. So for South Park, Trey set up with him to come to the show, and he actually created a South Park character with me and Brian Boitano, and that was pretty dope.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then so I have that autographed
sweet.
and signed and framed. Okay, let's see. On the spot for this one.
If you can't think of sports, I'd be intrigued for actors too.
Yeah, actors
TV
or musicians.
Or movies.
Anthony Hopkins, Tom Cruise, Chris Martin from Coldplay, Metallica.
Metallica's hot right now with Stranger Things.
Yes, they are, aren't they?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so rad.
So is
Yes.
what is it? Is it Ann Bush, right, with the running up the
Kate
hill
Bush.
song? Kate Bush.
Kate Bush. Yeah. Kate Bush. Oh my gosh. I used to talk to Beyonce's dad all the time. But I never met her. Missy Elliott, Janet Jackson, a lot in the music industry. Jeff Goldblum, Sybil Shepherd, Debbie Reynolds, David Hyde Pierce.
And how many of these are, like, what's the majority of, like, from what state were you in? Like, California? Was this back in your Hollywood days? Was this?
This was here. Accumulation would be all this. So Idaho, Washington, and California.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there anybody where? Because I'm after interviewing or working with so many celebrities, I'm sure you're kind of immune to it.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anybody where you were so nervous because you're such a fan, or you didn't expect it, and you walk up to them and you're just
like starstruck and like dumbfounded?
Yeah.
Oh, let me think. Honestly, do you guys know a comedian? The Wayans brothers. They came on one time. Oh, Yondu, from I can't think. Chris Pratt was probably a good one.
Oh, wow.
But oh my gosh, Michael Rooker. He plays Yondu in Guardians of the Galaxy. He's the blue guy.
Okay.
He was in Days of Thunder. He's in The Walking Dead.
The blue guy in Guardians?
Yes.
So not Dave Bautista, the other blue guy?
Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. No, Michael Rooker. He plays Yondu, who was Chris Pratt's
the guy,
pseudo dad.
Yeah.
Who like had the arrow and it'd go and like stab everybody. He came on my former show, and I was not starstruck. But when he's he does martial arts, and so we did like this whole martial arts demonstration. And for some reason, like in the middle of the martial arts demonstration, I was so like surprised and dumbfounded at his skill set. I think I was just like, wow, that's like so cool. I just kind of got stupid afterwards. But let me think, who else? The Wayans brothers came on one time, and we had a band on the stage, and they were tuning up, and I forgot that one of them could sing. And he went up to the microphone and just started jamming with our musical guest, which was super cool. And I was a little.
The off-script stuff would be super cool to like witness and just be a part of.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, like that just happened.
Yes. But honestly, I would say the most recent thing would probably be the conversation I had with Garth Brooks. I was just so totally stoked. I think I was like super nervous that because it was a Zoom interview, that there would be technical issues because I was doing it remotely from my dining room table.
That would be like, with going back to this whole Zoom thing, that's like what everyone had to sacrifice is like high audio and video quality. You never know what you're going to get.
Yes.
Or background-wise, or, Wi-Fi, all that stuff.
Exactly, yeah. So honestly, I would say in person, not a whole lot, but the whole Zoom aspect does make it a little nerve-wracking because it's like, and also when you interview and you do these junkets via satellite with studios and PR companies, they give you only a certain amount of time. So they're like, okay, you have from here to here to get your interview done. So like, okay, you got 5 minutes with Garth, okay, and then the minute that they take you out of the guest room and they put you in your space, you got to brief them really quick, and then you got to get right into it, right? And then you got to get right out. And sometimes if you go long, they'll cut you off. Mm-hmm. And so you're like, great, how do I edit that? That's fun. Yeah. So, no, but it went great. He was awesome, and the quality of the video and the sound was awesome. I was interviewing Vanessa Williams, and that was one where it was a Zoom, and the audio started getting janky, and at one point my audio went out. It was just that was so nerve-wracking. That made me like
stomach dropped, and you're just like, oh
yes,
God,
I'm like, oh man, I'm so sorry, Ms. Williams. Can you please wait for a moment? Yeah, and so I'd say Zoom. It's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, are most of the celebrities you've worked with pretty nice behind the scenes?
I'd say majority of them absolutely. Again, it goes back to that whole like, they're humans and they're working and they're parents and just trying to make a living.
Caught them in a bad day, something like that. But
totally, yeah. There's something circulating right now. I think about what JoJo Siwa and the former Cameron, and now she's married. I don't know what her married name is. Bray. Thank you, Callie. Love you. But yeah, I saw that, and it's like her mom got all defensive because Candace apparently brushed her daughter off when it came to an autograph, which, I mean, it just goes to show that you have to be very careful how you communicate to other people and how you're behaving, because people can interpret something a little different, even if it's totally nonchalant. You've put yourself in a public position. You just have to be ultra sensitive to how people might be perceiving you, because you don't want to give them a wrong impression, right? But at the same time, it just goes back to the fact that Candace was a person, and maybe at that moment. So what happened apparently was Joe went up to her as a big fan of Full House and was like, hey, I'd love your autograph or a photo. And she's like, not right now. And that was really offensive to them, I guess. And, maybe Candace had something stuck in her tooth. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe she had a headache and wasn't going to smile really
It also
nice.
could be because, like, was that JoJo C was already, like, famous, too? Because do you think she could have been pulling, like, the whole, like, well, I'm famous, I kind of deserve a picture card?
No idea. I'm not even going to begin
that's a scenario.
Even. Yeah, it could be that she's
don't
just.
want to speculate.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to. Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of stuff.
Totally, but yeah, I just think the moral of that story is, be nice to others, and then also on the flip side, for what the way that JoJo perceived everything, don't take it personal. Yeah, it's obviously not you. She's a human being. Maybe something was going on.
Yeah.
You're not the first person. I'm sure she probably was like, not right now, thanks.
Yeah. Because who knows, maybe 20 minutes later she would have been,
totally
ecstatic to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep.
It's so interesting to me, though, the whole broadcasting realm and like being on TV and stuff like that. I'm curious, though. You said you were always, outgoing. You were never super shy or anything like that. But that first time, were you on radio before you did anything on TV?
Yes, I did radio, and then I did my first television appearance was a weathercast at Channel 6 covering for Scott Dorval.
Okay.
Hi, Scott.
Yeah.
If you're listening, Scott's awesome.
Scott used to come into my elementary school and talk about being on TV and stuff. Yeah.
He's such a good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I adore Scott.
I'm curious, though, because we talked about this on our first episode. Larry King, I heard him on an interview once saying he was so nervous the first time he was on radio, and he just said, that's the first thing I'm gonna say. So as soon as they go on air, he's like, I'm super nervous, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm gonna go for it. And he said he never got nervous again after that. Yep. What was going through your mind the first time you were on radio or TV?
I'll tell you both. So the first one, radio, was Bill and Doug in the morning, and or actually no, it was Bill and Big J and I think. I don't know. I can't. You guys, it was so long ago, but it was in the morning, and I know it was Bill. And we were talking, and I was starving because it was super early, and I was not acclimated to the time period yet, right? So I didn't eat breakfast, but I was so hungry, and I'm not kidding you. It was the first break of the morning. My stomach growls so loud that it gets picked up by the audio board through my microphone, and Bill's rolling on the Vox. And that's the recording system, right? So we record all of our breaks. Sometimes we'd edit and then re-air, but that show was produced live. So when we were talking on air, it was live. Nothing was pre-cut unless it was like an obvious pre-cut segment, meaning that like there was jokes and sound effects and stuff. But when it was conversation, it was live. So we were just talking. My stomach growls, but he's rolling on the Vox. And it was embarrassing in the moment. Like, I just remember going, oh my gosh. And I'm looking around like, did anybody hear that? And then pretty soon Bill looks at me and goes, what was that? And just totally calls me out.
Makes it worse.
Oh, it gets better. So I'm totally embarrassed and horrified. Then what he does during the break is he cuts it, and he cuts my stomach growling and makes it into a soundtrack.
Oh, no.
And then plays it all morning long.
We have a soundtrack board. We should find that and throw it on there.
Totally. But it's just like this, rah, rah. It was so funny though. But it was a great way to haze me, I guess.
And it kind of eases the tension. Not tension, but kind of maybe the nerves too.
Totally,
Yeah.
right? It was like, okay, well, I'm completely embarrassed now. So
Can't get much worse than this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm just going to roll with it.
Can't unrecord it.
Exactly. Yeah. Can't unlive that moment. And then for television, was filling in for Scott, who was on vacation in Mexico. And I remember Michelle Edmonds was the anchor, and I just remember getting up in front of the weather wall, and then my heart is just racing, and I can hear my heartbeat in my ears. And I remember just looking at Michelle, because she was so great at just being a grounding, calm person. She's a great person too. And I just remember looking at her, and she just smiles at me, and she's like, you got this. And I just took a deep breath and breathed out, and I'm like, you're right, I do. And then that was it. And then I was just fine. And I went through it. But
really? So
yeah.
It was never like you weren't just, I mean, obviously you were probably nervous, like you said, until the calming figure kind of helped you out. But because
she grounded me. She grounded me.
Okay.
Yeah. If she wasn't there and wasn't looking at me, I think I totally would have been like, okay, and maybe slightly hyperventilating while talking.
Because I was curious.
Yeah.
I mean, because first, if I was ever on TV, I just imagine like I'm up all night the night before, just overthinking. Even when I would do like presentations for school, I'm like up late thinking about it, make sure I have everything down. I'm gonna talk about, don't want to mess up.
Yeah.
Were you kind of dealing with all that sort of stuff too?
The night before? Yeah, I honestly can't remember, but I imagine I probably would have been hung up a little bit on the computer system, because when you're forecasting, right, it's all about, so the weather anchors here, and meteorologists, by the way, they go in and they take a look at the data they have access to and write a forecast for the area, and then they have to update all the computer graphics for the weather that they're going to present to you. So they create their own weather story. That in itself is an entire process, and I think that was probably what I was most hung up on and likely focused on, because the presentation part, I was accustomed to doing that, talking ad nauseum on radio for a while, background in theater. I know I could carry something if need be, but just making sure that I had the forecast correct and that I had the graphics right and everything was going to fire correctly, that technical execution aspect.
That would be the scariest part, is having the weather report right.
So
yes.
So when you're doing weather, you don't have a prompt. You have to memorize the forecast.
I think each meteorologist probably has their own little tricks of the trade. I memorized everything. It was way easier for me to just and like I said, I love memorization is where I'm at. And that's also kind of what we do on the lifestyle show. So there is written scripts and tossed to packages that if it is a sponsored piece, I have to say verbatim.
Yeah.
But I live in the realm of ad lib. And I live in the realm of make believe. No, I'm just kidding. I don't live in that realm. I know I like to ad lib, so there will be script in there. And before the show, I'll go through the rundown and I'll read it, so I'll know what's typically coming up, which is a benefit and not, because like I said, I have a somewhat of a photographic memory. So Callie's shaking her head. So I'll see what's written in there, and if a producer changes a script without telling me as we're going into show, so like as a news anchor, this was also a challenge I had to make sure all my producers know about. So if they're changing something on the fly, they had to tell me that they were changing it in the prompter, because if they didn't, I would say what was in there before.
Right.
Because I would assume that what was in the prompter
You already
is
knew
a
what was
typo.
coming.
Yeah, well, and I would assume it's a typo. I'd be like, oh, that's incorrect. That's a typo. And then I would say what was there previously. And so they'd have to say, we updated, blah, 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 read as is. Because otherwise, I'll say what's already downloaded in my brain case.
Yeah, I was in the control room. I did the Boise State television program for 4 years, and I was always in the control room, and it'd be, I mean, just being a kind of a funny, like a rehearsal, we'd change the teleprompter just to kind of train the anchors is like, hey, like, not everything's going to be perfect, like, from our end, so you got to kind of adapt with us.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of funny sometimes because they'd be like, up, and they'd kind of get sped up because it's like, I just read a completely different script 30 minutes ago for a different episode, and now I'm reading something completely different. It's kind of funny how that works.
Yeah.
No. How do you like if you mess up on live TV? How do you handle that?
You own it. There's a couple of tricks. So there is, I had a former co-anchor. His name's Eric Harriman. He and I co-hosted in the morning at KIVI. He ended up going to Norfolk, and now actually is in Sacramento as well, which is his home space. So that's awesome. But Eric taught me that he was the master at this. So if you're reading and you're so confident in your delivery, you believe what you are saying, right? It's about it's about conviction. It's about being married to what you're saying. So instead of St. Jude, right? You got the sticker right here. I love St. Jude. You know, if you accidentally say, I love St. Jude, and because they're such a great program, and people will stop and they'll go, did you say St. Jude or St. Jude? What was that, right? So like if you have a fumble like that and you just keep going and then later you say it correctly, then they question themselves. They're like, did I hear that right?
Yeah.
I don't think I did. Because obviously he's talking about St. Jude. I mean, look at me. He didn't even stop. But if it's like a blaring, obvious, like you're tripping over your words and you can't stop, you know, I mean, I think the best thing's to be authentic and real. Again, it goes back to being that you're a real human being. Mm-hmm. Human beings make mistakes. You know, we're not this robot that's on air delivering information or relating to people. You know, there was one time I was doing a cooking segment. We had a woman fly in from New York, and it was about Jewish baking, and we were building these, we were doing bagels and these awesome breads. And she was super excited to be on the show. I mean, she flew in from New York, but during the middle of the show, someone had done popcorn in the lounge and set off the fire alarm because they burnt it. And so all of a sudden, the entire station's being evacuated in the middle of our program. Never have I ever had an experience like that before. Yeah. But, and I look at her, and she's trying to ignore it and plow through it, you know. And I mean, and there's alarms going off in the middle of the whole thing. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, but we're going to have to go to break because I think the building's on fire, you know. So instead of continuing and being like, oh, nothing's happening. I mean, you have to be real in the moment, right? Yeah. That's pretty obvious. That situation's pretty obvious, but there are others, you know, where you'll stumble and be like, I am so sorry. Let me restate
like
that.
The teleprompter goes too fast or too slow, something like that happens.
Yeah.
That's always a bobble we had.
Yeah, right? Like getting the timing on rolling. Yeah, that's a skill set in itself, right? But, I mean, if you're a seasoned news anchor, ad-libbing, like I said, when before you go into a show, every anchor should be reading through their copy and know what's coming, unless it's a breaking news situation, right? That's always when you're flying at the seat of your pants. But a good anchor goes in, reads copy, sometimes edits to their own words, so it's easier for them to deliver. They're fact-checking. They're working with their producers to make sure that, you know, if a copy doesn't make sense, that they understand what the message really is, to make sure it's factually correct and also can be delivered properly. But so if a prompter rolls fast, you know, if an anchor's prepared, they should be able to tap dance until it gets into space. Yeah.
Have you ever interviewed somebody and they said something that just completely threw you off guard? Like, because I always see the video on Instagram or TikTok where there's like a fireworks stand and the correspondent's asking the little kid, he's like, you know, what fireworks you get for the 4th of July? And he's like, when do you like to know, weather boy? And he's like,
oh, yes.
Where are your parents? You know,
yes,
like, I just can't imagine how, like, I'd probably laugh personally and just
Totally.
be like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, I can't point to a situation because I think there's probably been so many of them throughout my career that it just becomes a part of the thread, right? And again, it goes back to being authentic. Like in that real moment, I would have, if that was me, I probably would have laughed and gone, "Oh my goodness, we got a sassy pants here," and like I bet you're a firecracker yourself, something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, just roll with the punches.
Yeah, because I think going back to like the connecting with like your audience and stuff like that, I think being less robotic and rolling with punches like that, I think that does help with the connection part for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, people, you got to point out the elephant in the room.
Right.
People aren't stupid.
Yeah.
Like they're experiencing it in real time with you as well.
I feel like it'd be almost more weird if you ignore something like that.
Exactly. Right. Like that's when it becomes awkward.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh.
Or who knows, your ratings will spike after that. Exactly. You never know.
Totally.
Yeah. What about, so like going ratings to spike, what about like being turned into like a meme, right? I feel like a lot of newscasters or like anchors on television they're very easy to like, kind of flip the script on them. Yeah. And meme them, like, especially weather people.
Yeah.
Like, on like tonight, like late shows, they'll do like the compilations of, like people doing like terrible, like weather. Like how do you deal with that? So like, oh, if I F up this weather segment, then like, the whole Treasure Valley is not going to be my friend anymore,
I cannot speak to whether or not I have ever been memed or anything. There are some things I've recently discovered that I'm like, oh my gosh, I was a part of that. I had no idea. It's just, it comes with the territory, it just is what it is. And if I saw one that
you think
actually
you'd
popped
embrace
up,
it?
oh yeah, that's hilarious. Well, it's just like a celebrity being on SNL, right? If you had a skit after you on SNL, how rad is that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that is not embarrassing. That to me is like a pinnacle of I've made it.
Right.
I'm on SNL. And truly, one of my former co-anchors, his name was Dale Shornack. One of the writers for SNL grew up watching Dale on TV, and they literally wrote an SNL skit based on Dale Shornack, and they even used his name and everything. And it was a huge story on our station when they did it, but it was pretty recent too. It was like in the last 7-8 years, and he ended up retiring, and then they did this skit, and I'm like, "You're the man, Dale. You are the man." Yes, and because Dale really is the man. He was rad.
Yeah. What would you say is like the biggest story you've covered? Whether you were doing interviews, news, weather, radio, is there like one story or event or anything like that
that really sticks out?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say biggest or anything, because there's just been a lot over almost 20 years. But one that sticks out that was just like, wow, what a race that was. Well, actually, there's one cute one here locally I'll tell you about, but the big one, okay, I'll tell you the cute one first. Cute as in, like, it was probably the first super impactful moment I had on air. So I was at KIVI, and there was a little boy who was missing in Malheur County. And for those who don't know, Malheur County is pretty much the entire strip of eastern Oregon, right? It's just this long, skinny county on eastern Oregon that butts up right against Idaho.
Like Ontario, like that area?
Yes. Yeah. So there was two grandparents, because I said grandparents. Thank you for being redundant. But grandparents took their toddler grandson out to camp in the middle of, the big steppe climate area. So you're talking, like your desert almost setting. And he ended up sneaking out of the tent at night, and grandparents woke up and he wasn't there. And he's a toddler still in diapers. And so obviously this was really, really, really big news. Everyone's freaking out. They had hundreds of people just combing Malheur County. It was right on the edge of summer, fall time. So you're looking at really cold temperatures overnight. A tiny little kid who was only in a diaper. That's really dangerous. You got cougars in the area. You got coyotes. This kid was really at risk. And at the time, no one thought that he was alive, right? So it's a very, very desperate, sad situation. And my news director at the time was like, "You're getting in a chopper. We're going to fly you out there because I want you to go turn this story." He's like, it's a half hour, 45-minute flight from the Boise airport to the location we were going. And he's like, "So what I need you to do is you're going to hop in the chopper. You're going to land. You have an hour on the ground to collect the story. I need you to write the story, and I need you to write the story and log it so your shooter can cut it the minute you land, because you'll have probably about a half hour to get that done before the newscast," which for anyone who is in this type of situation, that is ridiculously tight.
Yeah.
Like, that's stupid tight. So we get in the chopper, we fly, we land, and it was the most beautiful thing, because we land and it is just so so intense. Like the atmosphere is just, it's dire because it literally is. Everyone's expecting to come across the carcass of a toddler in the middle of nowhere. And we're interviewing, some of the post people, the law enforcement who are involved. We were interviewing the grandparents who obviously were a hot mess, which was just heartbreaking. And I had just had my first child. I just had Abby. And so I was, still pretty emotional. And anyone, I know you guys, I'm not going to assume that you don't have children or have children, but once you have children, it really is a life-changing experience, right? And all of a sudden, these things that you look at that normally would not impact you become a huge deal. And especially a toddler missing in the desert. I mean, that was obviously something that would just like floor me. So interviewing grandparents, they're falling apart. I'm already kind of slightly emotional. And then I swear we have 20 more minutes left on the ground. And this horse, we hear shouting, and they come in on a horseback, and it's a search and rescue with the toddler. He's filthy, and his diaper is just full, and he's
this all
just
on camera.
Yes, yeah. So we captured the whole thing because Heidi, my shooter, was rolling, and they come in with this little. Now this isn't live. This is all packaged, right? This is all pre-taped, but we captured the moment. It was just gorgeous, and not a dry eye. Every single person there, we're just bawling, and then the grandparents are reunited with the toddler, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm bawling, and but we're out in the middle of the desert, right? We're under there's chopper, so my hair's flying. I got dirt all over me. My makeup is melting. We're in the chopper. I'm trying to log. If anyone's ever flown in a helicopter, it's choppy. When you're looking through the view of a camera, like a camera view, right? Like, and you're trying to roll tape, it's like the most nauseating dang thing in the entire world. And I'm trying to pay attention to time codes and doing, getting my SOTs all lined out. And I'm just writing chicken scratch. And then Heidi and I land, we hop in the car, we drive out like scary speeds to Nampa. Sorry, law enforcement. And then, when she turns, I voice it, she turns the package, of run in studio, literally, I'm not kidding. Michelle Evans is tossing to me, and I'm running into place, and I haven't had a chance to touch myself up. And when she tosses to me, I swear, she looks at me and she's like, wow, what happened to her? Because I look like total crap, right? Because my hair is all messed up, and I've been crying, so I probably have raccoon eyes. And as I'm reading the toss to my story, my intro, I start getting choked up because all of a sudden the impact of what I had just witnessed just hits me.
All the emotions, yeah.
Yes, right? And then I just remember going, and they found him, and you need to watch this because I couldn't read it because I'm like, right? But that was a story that I'll never forget.
Yeah.
But in Sacramento, as a meteorologist and a fill-in anchor, I was supposed to fill in on the morning news because our morning news anchor, Sharon Ito, was on vacation. It was Kiba. Kiba Arnold's on vacation. And I was going to fill in at the desk, and we were going to have somebody else do weather. But what ended up happening was there was a massive earthquake in Japan that destroyed the nuclear plant, if you guys remember that. I want to say it was like 2012 is when that happened. The earthquake, the last massive earthquake that hit Japan.
The tsunami?
Yeah. Well, yes. So it triggered a tsunami.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So the earthquake hit, triggered a tsunami, and they call me at home at like 2 a.m. and they're like, we need you to double team this, and you need to get in here, and we need you to track the tsunami, build the forecast, and you're going to co-anchor with Dan. And I'm like, okay. So that was insane. I mean, that was such a marathon because I would do a news read. Luckily, they gave most to Dan, but I would do a news read, and then I'd have to go over and do the forecast, and then I'd have to go and track the tsunami with the Tsunami Center, and then come back. And then I was deploying news teams to Crescent City because that was actually the trajectory of the tsunami. So there's a part of Northern California that actually is really sensitive to that type of activity. Even though it was coming all the way from Japan, it was crossing the Pacific Ocean, and it was going to impact Crescent City, California.
Wow.
So we had to deploy a news team to go there to watch it hit and see the impact there. So I was tracking that. It was insane. I was on air, literally, I think I had maybe one pee break. It was less than, 10 minutes, if that. It was long enough. I didn't even take my mic and IFB off. I ran in there and then came back out. I was on air from 3 a.m. until like 2:30 in the afternoon until they could get somebody else to come on in.
That is crazy.
Yeah. And I think that was the breaking moment where I was like, you know what? I think news is good and I love it, but I think I need to do something else.
Yeah.
Because I have, I had a kid, and I knew I wanted to have other children, and it's very, very, very demanding. So please have respect for those that deliver your news to you, because it is a very, very, very demanding racket.
Yeah. So in moments like that, when everything's crazy and you kept it together and you killed it on air, is there a moment where, like, as soon as, like, the camera stopped rolling and you kind of, go to the back or whatever, is there, like, moments where people, like, are clapping, that people standing up, like, giving you appreciation and being like, or your boss or maybe your, superiors, just like, wow,
that would be awesome. That would be so amazing if that's how things worked. No, the applause and the clapping come in reviews and from your ratings.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. No, there is no immediate gratification in broadcast. It's a long game. It's a very long game. And then that's why I think, too, as a broadcaster, when you get nice messages from listeners and viewers, it's gold. It is gold, because it's super easy for people to complain, especially now. We are in such a complainy pants type of culture at the moment.
Right.
Everyone has opinion. Everyone is angry, and which makes it really difficult, especially when you're in the public eye, because you're a very easy target, regardless if you are the source of their angst or not. Mm-hmm. They see you, and you're easy, and so it's a great way to get their aggressions out, right? But and people, they will vocalize when they're upset, but for someone to take the energy and time to actually send a nice message, that takes commitment and conviction. And so when someone does that, it's just, it's awesome. It's awesome.
So do you get, like, DMs or, like, tweeted at, like, of people being like, wow, that was awesome, or, like, I'm such a big fan, or is that more like actual, like, reviews from, like
Oh, well, because of the birth of social media now, people reach out and will say stuff, and it's awesome.
Do you read most of those?
Oh, yeah, and I always respond and talk and say, hey, it's one human talking to a human. So, it's like, thank you so much. That's so nice. That's great. How are you doing?
Mm-hmm. But kind of speaking on the difference between, you were saying someone who's on TV versus somebody who works at a store, they're still just both people.
Yeah.
Do you get treated like a celebrity? Like, do you get recognized a lot?
It's interesting. So I do get recognized, but I would say so it's nice when someone is comfortable enough to come up and say hi. There's, a percentage of people that are like that. They'll be like, oh, hey, hi, how are you? There's also a percentage of people who are like, oh, I know who that is, but they don't want to bother you. And that's when it gets kind of awkward.
You can see them, like, side-eyeing you.
Totally. And I don't know if I did something to offend them, because I don't know if they know me. I mean, you can't assume that. I'm like,
no, a little bit arrogant. Yeah.
Well, it's
like, they must know me.
Totally. Well, I mean, it's completely arrogant, but also on top of that, I mean, there's just so many different, like, celebrity is such a convoluted thing now. Yeah. Like, there's so many. You guys have a podcast. I mean, you probably have fans and followers, right? I mean, you put yourself out there. Well, I mean, but you put yourself out there, right? Yeah. So, like, the public eye is not this small, finite thing anymore. The public eye is, like, massive, all thanks to the internet and social and all these different forms of media, right? Like broadcast is no longer TV, radio. Broadcast is so much larger.
We started this podcast on broadcast. We would do this podcast live weekly for an hour, and that's kind of how we started it. Now everything's pre-recorded because we just found it easier. If something we needed to cut, or we had someone that needed to talk about something that wasn't, like, quite out or official yet, so we had to record it. But I mean, that's broadcast. There's streaming of all kinds of stuff. That was actually going to take you my final question before we do the card segment, which is a new segment we have going. Where would you put podcasts in, like, media? Because it's like, it's not quite short form like TikTok, YouTube video, but it's not quite long form, always running news. Mm-hmm. So, like, what's your opinion on it? Like, what have you thought of starting? Like, what's your take on the whole thing of podcasting?
What's my opinion on podcasts?
Sure, yeah.
I think well, first of all, I would love to start a podcast. I just don't know when is my problem. So, Callie, let's figure that one out.
Maybe we do on the lifestyle show, we'll have a segment on why you should start a podcast.
There you go. That's great.
We could totally do it.
Yeah, we could totally do that.
Sponsored by SB Studios.
Yes. So what I love about podcasts are very accessible. For those who want to create and also those who want to listen. Because of that, though, I do think that it is a very saturated market. So that makes it difficult, right? But at the same time, a podcast just in itself, the nature of just a podcast, I think is brilliant because it's slight audiobook, right? So like when you're on a long road trip, what's one of the best things to do, especially when you can't get radio anymore?
Yeah.
You take your podcast list and then you just listen to really intriguing conversations. I think it's again, a nice relatable format where you're breaking down that wall. It's authentic, it's relatable, which I'm a huge fan of. And the beauty is, too, it's a space that you can put whatever type of content in you want. You can do informational, you can do news, you can do sports.
True crime,
You can do true crime, you can do just...
You never know. Whatever you want, you know?
Exactly.
You never know.
Never know, Ryland.
Yeah.
You never know.
So to kind of wrap up real quick before we do these card questions to send us off, I was curious for somebody who wants to go into, you know, anchoring or news or any type of broadcasting.
Yeah.
What is some advice you would give them to succeed?
Okay. Wow. So I wish it was a little clearer, but like I just said, it's a different world out there now. Before, to really break into broadcast and do well, you know, it was always like, you better go to journalism school. You better get an agent to get you in the door, because that agent then would, which I had for a long period of time as well at one point. Now, because of social media, because everyone has this ability to create their own content, the ingenuity and the savviness of the younger generations is exponentially greater than just even a decade ago, because you guys already have access to such incredible tools. Like the stuff you can do on your iPhone, no joke. There were TV stations in major markets just a handful of years ago considering getting rid of actual studio, or actual cameras like DSLRs to go out in the field with reporters and photographers and just start using smartphones, because you could upload such brilliant editing programs onto them, and the quality of some of the shooting was so great that they were like, we're going to save money and do that. Very thankful that never truly came to fruition, but there have been a number of stories that have aired on national networks that are all done from your phone. So my point with that is that I honestly think that things are evolving at such a pace when it comes to being prepared for something. Just do what you do now and do it a lot and all the time. Now, if you want to get into news, like legit news, study your ethical journalism. Do go to journalism school. Learn how to write, learn the law, learn how to be credible, learn sourcing, learn the true definition of defamation and liability and slander. Those are all so incredibly important, and things that
Get all the guidelines down.
Yeah, because it's so convoluted now, and so many people don't know how to recognize when something is an actual credible report versus conjecture or versus just propaganda on social, right? And the more people that we can have educated that understand the difference of actual reporting versus opinionated conversation is huge. And so if you want to do news, know your stuff. If you want to go on television, start in radio, I swear. Here's the benefit of that. It teaches you vocal control. It teaches you to listen to yourself, and it teaches you how to ad-lib and speak ad nauseum.
So what about podcasting? Would you consider podcasts in the same category as radio?
Podcasting is a great training ground, in my opinion. The only thing that would be the difference to me is that podcasting is your own world, right? So you're not getting certain guidances.
Sure.
Whereas if you were to be in radio, you'd at least be introduced to some of the processes that include broadcasting. So while radio and TV are two very different realms, if you will, or two different functionalities of media, there are similarities, like, you know, working with an engineering department, working with a sales department, having a corporation giving you guidances on branding and execution. Those are all very important things because they're an aspect of a business. And if you truly want to be successful in broadcasting, regardless in which area you want to navigate, those are things that truly, if you want to be successful, you will understand. Even though a news anchor, that is not their responsibility to execute any of the marketing or any of the sales or that, but having an understanding of what it is and how it impacts what you do, in my opinion, is very crucial.
Take notes. There it is right there.
Okay, now I have these cards staring
yeah,
at me.
So I think how this works is I'll do it from the interview deck. I'll grab a card, and then I ask you the question, and you answer it. I think it's pretty.
Or do you want to do
straightforward.
reverse roles? Since she, before we were talking, she was saying that this is a reverse role for her. Normally, she's the interviewer.
Yes.
Yeah, we can do that.
Or you guys can each both
We could take
pull one?
turns.
Yeah, we could do that.
We can
too.
each do
Let's do
one. How
that.
about that?
Let's make it like an actual game. Like you
Alright.
go, I go. Okay. All right.
I'll grab one first.
Oh, it literally says interview deck.
Yeah, this one's kind of serious. I don't want to ask.
Oh, okay. You don't think I can handle it, huh, Daniel?
Well, no, it's just like, what's the first impression you want to give people? Like, not a bad question, but
Well, my first impression I want to give people is that I'm a kind human being.
there you go.
I think
So
kindness
serious.
matters the most.
Yeah.
So serious.
So serious. I know that was really
Well,
hard hitting.
I didn't mean like deep serious. I just meant
Do you
like,
support vaccinations or not? No, that's
Yeah.
serious. Yes. Yeah.
What does your typical Friday night look like?
Oh dear Lord, it's pathetic. I'm married and have 2 children. So Friday night is Pizza Movie Friday. If I'm wrapping up a shoot in the field and taking care of some, meetings, I'll wrap those up, make sure all the family, the kids are back, husband's done with his work. One of us probably goes and does a run to Zamzo's to get crickets because my daughter has a frog that eats only live crickets. So once they die, we're done. So every
Picky.
Friday, we have to get live crickets for Bean, the frog. And then I usually will get a nice pizza or something, and we come home, and then we make the pizza previously.
So it's not a go-to
Daniel.
pizza joint. It's different every week.
Well, we do have a go-to pizza joint, but I don't want to give branding.
Oh yeah.
It's the
You can bleep
it's,
it.
It's
You don't
the
wanna
manager and me.
We
It's
can
the
bleep it if
manager
you
and
want.
me.
You don't want to wave a fan showing up there on Friday night to see you.
Yeah. Paparazzi.
I'll just put it this way. It's a take and bake. Okay. So, yeah, there we go. So we go because I have to modify it in
Sounds
full
like
transparency.
Papa Murphy's, but
I'll let you decide. But so we get the take and bake, Daniel. It's the take and bake. We'll get that, and then I have to modify it because I have a lot of food aversions. It's a bummer, and Callie knows all about it. So I'll take that home and I'll adjust it so I can eat my pizza because I also get my family pizza, Callie. That's how that works. I don't force people to eat fake cheese. And then we'll cook it, and then ideally we'll sit down and we'll all enjoy pizza and watch a movie. But I have a 13-year-old. So now that means that she sits down and eats her pizza, and then she watches it for about maybe 5 minutes and then takes off and does something else.
I could have guessed that. My sister
Right?
just kind of got out of that phase. She's coming to Boise State, but I remember being home and it'd be like, oh, I'm home for a week or weekend. It's like, let's have family time or we'll go somewhere. No, I'm good. I'm just gonna go in my room.
Totally, right?
But yeah.
Okay, but you said she's finally getting out of it. So you're saying that there's an end.
Yeah.
That gives me hope. Thank you.
Yeah, there's an end.
There's an end. But it happens when they go to college.
I don't
'Cause
know
you
if
said
that's
she's
the
going to Boise State.
reason.
Okay.
But
Okay. All right. Yeah. So seriously. So we'll watch a movie, and then I put my daughter to bed, and my husband, he goes to bed very early because he's a runner. No joke. He gets up at like 4:30 or 5 every morning and runs. Even on the weekends, he cannot sleep in. I, however, love to sleep in. And so then I am by myself watching whatever I want to watch with a glass of wine in my fuzzy robe. There you go.
Not a bad Friday night.
Yeah,
No.
but I mean, it's pretty sad when I used to actually go out and do things, right? Hang
Looking
out with
back.
friends, go to a winery, go to a show, go to a club. No. My idea is a robe and a glass of wine
and
in front
pizza.
of the TV. Yeah, watching some Netflix.
Just some me time.
Totally.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
Oh, is it my turn now? Do I get to pull
Yeah.
from the
Yeah, I
deck?
think so.
You can pick either one too. You don't have to go to the interview.
Well, he pulled from the interview deck, so I'm going to keep it even.
Okay.
What's something weird? This is a good one.
Oh,
I like
God.
it.
I already don't
Slightly
like it.
personal, Daniel. What's something weird that you do before bedtime?
What is something weird I do before bed?
Now, be honest. I was very honest. I even got down to the robe and the fact that I am lonely on Friday nights all by myself watching Netflix.
I rewatch the same 3-4 shows, just kind of in roto.
Yeah.
So recently I'll watch an episode of Modern Family I've seen 300 times.
Okay.
It's kind of weird.
No, actually, I kind of understand why you do that, though, because you're just trying to watch something that maybe allows you to space out and kind of let your
Right.
brain shut off. So if you feel that you get tired, you're not missing anything because you've already seen it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I personally pick stupid programming, like stuff that is just so brainless, so that if I'm getting tired.
Shut your brain down a little bit.
Yeah. And then if I get tired, I don't care if I'm missing the storylines.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is so dumb. And I just
I'm the complete opposite. Is I'll pick something that I'm so intrigued in, and I try to stay so focused to stay up that it puts me to sleep.
Oh, okay.
So
You're
it's
struggling.
like Stranger Things. I would put on
love
Stranger Things, like the new season, and I got through the first episode, and I was like, it was like 1:30. I'm like, I'll start the second episode, and I probably made it 5 minutes, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to rewatch it in the morning.
Do you know what happens to me if I do that, though? So if I actually watch something that I find really intriguing and I can't finish it because I'm so exhausted, I'll dream about it the night before and I'll rewrite the entire storyline, and I'll have an entire different
Kinda cool.
episode.
It's like a superpower.
Well, and it's like I'll wake up and I'll go, did that really happen? Did I finish that?
You're like telling the story to people, and they're like, "That's not what happened."
You're like, that is
What show did
not
you
the
on?
episode, Melissa. Yeah, and it's like, oh, that's right, because I made it up. Yeah. Okay, so you're gonna do another one, or is that good?
Yeah, pull one from the other deck. We'll do it. We'll do one. From each
I
deck.
asked you 2 questions. You can do one more.
Oh,
you can
okay.
shoot at me one more time.
Okay,
How about that?
Sweet. Oh, this is fun. Are you related to anyone famous or historical? If so, who?
Not to my knowledge. I think the coolest thing, but still not cool, is I think my mom used to be really big into like the Ancestry.com stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I guess my like great 8 times great or whatever it is grandparents were like take care of the horses for the king of England.
Oh, that's
way back in the
rad.
day. Yeah, so they do whatever they do to take care of the horses for them.
That's cool.
I
That's
think-
really cool. So they're like stable men, or
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know their official title, but they did something with the horses for the monarchy out there. Yeah,
That's super
way
cool.
back in the day. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, your turn. Blue card.
All right.
We'll do one more, and we'll wrap it up.
Rubbing elbows.
Better be
with,
a good one, then.
Royalty.
Oh, this is perfect. All right, 4 things you might not know about me. So as in you.
Oh, geez. Well, what did we already talk about? Four
Talk a lot about
things.
your career and stuff.
Okay.
Maybe like give us some 4 things from like maybe like we have a lot of Boise State listeners. Maybe
Okay.
something from like Boise State or like Boise related.
Okay, I'm going to use this as a moment to plug something. So I was a Boise State major, a theater major, and one of my co-classmates, his name is Ira, and Ira is actually in Stranger Things. And he's incredible, and we did an interview with him on Idaho Today, which you can watch, but he plays the secret agent Harmon, which is the pen guy. I don't want to give any spoilers, but if you've seen it, he's the one that gives the team the pen that then leads them to somebody.
Yep.
And then he dies in the back of a van.
Spoiler.
Yeah, but
Kind of.
but I didn't give away the most important thing. But yeah, so so Ira's awesome.
And he went to
Um,
Boise State.
Yeah,
That's
he's Boise
awesome.
State
Is
grad.
he from Boise?
Actually,
that's-
his grandfather. We got to watch the interview. You can go to Idaho Today's Facebook page. It's Idaho Today to watch it, or our landing page at KTVB.com. But his grandfather, I guess, was a mayor of one of the towns in Idaho
wow.
years ago.
I'd say you could
Mhm.
add him to the list with Aaron Paul. Like that's kind of a big show
Yeah.
and a big
Yeah.
figure from Idaho.
Totally, yeah. Ira Amix is his
Awesome.
last name. Yeah, lives in
Shout out.
Chicago.
We got to
now.
try to get him on this show. Maybe.
Yeah. Oh, Ira would be rad. Well, he's in Chicago, so you'd have to figure out some kind of Zoom link.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Ira's awesome. He's a cool dude.
Sounds good.
Cool dude. Don't ask him about me, though, because I don't want him to share anything. Ever. No, I'm just kidding. Ira's super cool. But you said 4 things,
Yeah,
though?
we'll do one more.
Yeah,
we'll do
yeah,
2.
we-
We'll cut
yeah.
it down. We're already at an hour and 15 almost.
I like, ice cream's one of my weaknesses. How's that? And I can't eat it now because I am lactose intolerant, which makes me very sad. So I like oat milk ice cream and cashew ice
Didn't know
cream. It's
that was
pretty
a
good.
thing.
It is, and you should check it out because it's like really tasty. It's super creamy. It's nice.
Is it the same as regular ice cream though?
Well, I mean, it's ice cream. It's just not made with dairy milk, right? It's made with oats. So technically,
But would
it's
you
not
say it's
real ice
better, or the same, less?
oh, honey, nothing can beat real ice cream.
Yeah.
Same thing as no one can beat real cheese. Like seriously, there are some decent cheese stand-ins, but they're not even. They don't even hold a candle to the real thing, right? Like I mentioned the Pizza Movie Friday on Fridays. I'll make myself a pizza with shredded cheese, vegan cheese, so non-dairy, and it's like putting plastic. So you wait for it to melt, but it's gets softer, but it doesn't lose its shape. So that experience of lifting a slice of pizza with a string of cheese does not exist in my world anymore, which breaks my heart.
There you go.
Okay, all right. So blue deck now.
Yeah, one from
Okay.
the blue deck.
You go blue deck, and I'll go blue deck.
All right.
Because I feel like I've really been talking a lot.
Okay, so am I answering the one I pulled then?
I
this
don't know.
one
How
is-
does that one work? Well, what's the episode ideas? What's that?
It's kind of just It's like more of like a one-line topic type
Yeah.
Okay.
conversation.
But there's some other like questions. So for like this one, 3 things I'm excited about right now.
3 things I'm excited about right now. I'm excited to go take a bath when I get home. 1, I am excited because my birthday is coming up on the 9th, so I got to figure out what to do with that. And 3, I am excited for all of you to watch Idaho Today on Channel 7 Monday through Friday, 12:30 to 1.
And this episode.
Well, of course, you got to listen to this episode. When is this one airing? Do you know yet?
I think the 10th, the day after your birthday.
Are you
This
serious?
should air next Wednesday, yeah.
Oh, thanks for the present. I
Yeah, of
appreciate
course.
that. All right. So, where do they get this? Are you going to do a plug at the end? I don't want to steal your plug.
I do a wrap up. I was gonna let you plug anything you
Okay.
got.
Okay.
You know.
Wow. Well, we have an awesome giveaway right now in Idaho Today. Well, do we want to finish this and then we'll do plugs?
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Kind of like hot ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So now is it my turn? Do I
Yeah,
pull?
you pull.
Yeah.
All right. Talk about your favorite famous dead person. Ooh, that's a good one.
Ooh. I think first person. I don't know if this is my favorite because I'd have to think about it. But the first person who came to mind was Heath Ledger, just because like
Mm-hmm.
it's so interesting to me that he was like this up and coming actor from Australia who was like being built as like the next big thing, and then he did one of the best performances in movie history as the Joker.
Yeah.
And then he passes away before it comes out.
Yeah.
And in a way, the fact that he did die early and all the mystique around that role and everything he put into that with his method acting and stuff, it built his mystique as an actor. Like he was obviously a great actor,
Mm-hmm.
but it's interesting to me that in a way, I think because he died under the circumstances, how young he was, and the role he just did, it built his mystique and his legacy.
Yeah.
That
No,
just is super interesting to me.
It is. It's kind of like the same vein as like Kurt Cobain, right? With
Right.
Nirvana or like River Phoenix. I don't know if you guys
Yep.
remember River Phoenix. Yeah. Yeah. But it is. It's like this like shooting star and all of a sudden it gets snuffed out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. No, I feel you on that one. Okay. So is that the blue cards?
Yeah, I
Yep,
think
that-
we're good to wrap.
Yeah.
All right.
So just tell us about any future plans, aspirations you have coming up.
Oh,
What's new?
Okay.
Yeah.
Aspirations. I want to win $1 million. No, I'm sorry. How much is
You didn't
what's
win the lottery last
Well,
week?
I want to win 1.5 billion, whatever it was. Yeah, Idaho Today is constantly evolving. We always have all kinds of great, fun, new content. We take you around the state. So I just say, honestly, stay tuned to Idaho Today every weekday, and very sincerely, Monday through Friday, 12:30 to 1. We do tons of giveaways. As mentioned, we try to help everybody with their bottom line because, especially right now, everyone's strapped. Things are a challenge, so we love to give away free stuff. Anything that can help you continue to really enjoy your life and be happy and live it to the fullest without having to really worry about pinching the pennies and having to sacrifice something else. That's what we want to help you with. So follow us on social, Facebook and Instagram. Instagram is Idaho Today and the number 7, not the word 7, but we would love to hear
They
from you.
verified too, so
And
the
we
real
are-
deal.
All thanks to this lady right here that you can't see. It's Callie Lindsay. If you watch Idaho Today, you'll see what Callie Lindsay looks like because she comes on with Crafting with Callie, which you were a part of today. Or is that tomorrow? It's tomorrow. She'll be a part
Recorded
of that tomorrow.
today.
We recorded it today. Yes. Yes, we did.
Power of Media.
That's right.
There
You
you
said
go.
it. All right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
I could have talked, or I could ask you questions for 3 more hours, but
Part 2
Very
coming.
long.
yeah, thanks so much for coming on, Kelly. Thanks for sitting in. Really appreciate it.
Like, share, subscribe,
Like,
review.
share, subscribe.
All the above.
You never
Yep.
know.
All right. Well, maybe we'll get you guys into a TV studio.
I would love to.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay.
Love
Great.
it.
Awesome. And then
Cool.
you can bring your card deck.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
do it.
Awesome.
Alrighty.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. I'm
Yeah.
flattered that you even thought of us. So
Yeah,
thanks.
of course.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yep.
Until next time, you never know. Thank you for listening to this episode of the You Never Know podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe to our pod and follow us on our socials at You Never Know Podcast. Until next time, you never know.